The Rings of Power? Yeah, I heard about season 2 that's come out. I haven't watched any of the episodes yet though. I've only seen the first season. I found that really boring, to be honest. I've heard people say the second season is boring. It surprises me though by its rating. Quite high. The average is 51% compared to the 84%. Wow. Could not be any more different. How's that? How's that possible? Is season 2 better? Hmm. Boring slog. Yeah. This is what I've been hearing. I've been hearing that it's boring. Yeah, I'm not hearing any good news about it. Makes me not want to watch the second season. After watching the first season, I feel like that was enough for me. I was bored watching that. I wasn't really entirely sold on the show, to be honest. Holy shit. Is that what he looks like now? Sauron? Well, to be honest, he does look better than he did in the first season. But mm, don't know. I still feel like the elves just don't look like elves in the show. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you remember when you watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy? It's like when you see the elves in that, their skin just looks so flawless. Especially Orlando Bloom. Like when you see him as Legolas, skin is just like marble or something. It's just smooth. Like there isn't like a single wrinkle, anything. But I feel like with Rings of Power, it just feels like they're just just regular people with pointy ears. I don't feel like they tried to make them look magical in any kind of way. They just look like people with pointy ears. It's like they're Vulcans from Star Trek or something like that. There was a lot of money put into this show as well, wasn't there? Wait, I need to look that up. How much did Rings of Power cost? Well, what is the budget? Yeah, what was the budget for? Oh, the costliest TV series ever. First season budget $700 million? No way. Is that true? Or do they just pull that out of their ass? Like, do they just make that up? If that's true, holy shit balls. 700 million. For a mediocre show. Something that's average or below average. Oh my god. 700 million. It's like they have so much money that they can just throw it out there and be like, yeah, make a TV series. But man, with 700 million? That's just crazy money. The show isn't even that good. That's the show. It's not about the amount of money that you can put into it. You're never guaranteed to get anything good out of it. No matter how much money you throw at it, it's the quality of making the show. The quality of the writing. If the writing isn't good, then that's it. That's basically, you've got a failed show, or a failed film, or a failed game, or a failed book, you know, like if the writing isn't good, because that is a problem with Rings of Power. The writing is just not good. It's really not. It's not solid at all. What people is oh, penguins.
Max Caulfield is back.
Let's thrash, Shakabra.
Now, Max must shift back and forth to reveal the truth of her friend's murder. In an attempt to save
boring snooze fest of a... If it looks like I'm half awake right now, it's because I am. Rings of Power Season 2 just came out and I watched all 3 episodes back to back to back. And I can say with confidence, it is probably the most boring show I've ever forced myself to watch through.
Penguin just always looks like it and sounds like he's so bored. He's always bored and tired. He's just like, I just watched Rings of Power. It was the most boring fucking show ever. I have more fun sticking pin needles in my eyes than I do watching this show. That's what he's saying. That's what he always comes across. I do love the guy. He's hilarious. He's one of my favorites.
I'm not ashamed to admit I dozed off a few times in the first 2 episodes. It's impossible not to. It's such an unbelievable, unfathomably boring snooze fest of a production that somehow costs like $1 billion or something. And I even rewound the parts that I slept through because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything good. Spoiler alert, I didn't. All it did was extend this painful journey for 3 episodes. The third episode, though, I hunkered down, muscled through it, like Clockwork Orange style. I peeled my eyelids open so I didn't fall asleep and caught everything. And it's just so unremarkable in every possible category. Sitting through Rings of Power is like sitting through a Jigglypuff song. You just can't help but fall asleep. It's just so dull. I didn't like Season 1 very much, but I think Season 2 is off to an even more brutally boring start. 98% of these 3 episodes is just 2 characters talking to each other. They're just vomiting sob stories into each other's mouths like it's 2 girls, 1 cup. That is almost every single scene in season 2. Like, the very first
Imagine the show's probably actually staying true to the source material. I can imagine the book is also boring just to read. I read the Lord of the Rings books and I found them boring. I wouldn't necessarily say that the books were bad, but they just were boring to me. They were boring to just read and try and get through.
first scene of episode 1, I actually had high hopes for. It was pretty cool. It was a Sauron backstory about the first time he got betrayed when he tried to rise to power. It was cool. They had a bunch of like orcs stabbing him and shit, and he was just blowing up with blood, and then he turned into this ooze that reminded me of Ivan Ooze from Power Ranger, but with like the properties of Venom. That was cool. And it's all downhill from there. I'm not saying this needs blood, guts, titties, and rock and roll to be interesting or anything. Like, I appreciate shows that are very well written and are extremely dialogue heavy. I don't need like a ton of, jingling keys to be entertained. Take, for example, Game of Thrones. There are a lot of times in Game of Thrones where a whole episode is mostly talking. But the difference between that and this is that in Game of Thrones, all the talking contributes to something. It pushes things forward. It builds the world, if nothing else. It fleshes out characters. It gets you invested in characters or situations. In Rings of Power, it all just feels like filler. It just feels like actual empty calories, like you're just chewing on styrofoam. Every character's conversation is just like this competition for throwing the biggest pity party that does nothing to progress the plot and keeps everything in the exact same place. Nothing moves forward. Nothing really changes until like one or two events that happen outside of dialogue, which is rare. It's just so worthless. We're 2 seasons deep now, and there's not a single character in the show that I care about. And I really feel like that'll be a sentiment shared by most viewers, because none of the characters have any real depth or any real reason to get invested in them. They don't do anything, really, aside from just talk in circles around each other and get nothing done, and then just get played like a fiddle by Sauron. Sauron is the only character in this show that is actually somewhat interesting and entertaining. Like any scene that Sauron is in, Sauron is by far the best part of that scene, and it's not even close. So, in Season 2, it's full mask off, and now he's manipulating everyone. He's starting to make the rings, and he's getting Celebrimbor to work with him by, pretending to do... I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'm being very vague here, but he's getting a lot of shit done through manipulation and deceit. But sometimes he's just bad at it, and it still works. So, like... There are times where it was a really good plan and he did a great job. I think the actor also does a pretty good job of, like, walking that line of, obviously evil and convincing enough that you can understand why someone would buy into the facade. But there are also some times where, like, he's talking to Durin, and he's like, Elrond said that you are the wisest dwarf to have ever lived, actually, and you're super handsome, the biggest cock in all of Middle-earth. Are you not the one that I should trust with this task? Like, the most blatantly obvious lies ever. Just like this ridiculous flattery out the wazoo. And Durin picks up on it, and he's like, I don't really trust him, but then still just plays right into the palm of his hands. But overall, I do still think Sauron is doing the best job here in Season 2 of at least having anything happen. Like, at least sometimes when he's convincing people to do shit, like, it's a well-executed scheme. A nefarious plot that was successful, great. At least something is happening, because every other character is just, oh god, it's so boring. Like, anytime we cut away from Sauron, it just becomes nap time. It's like the writers were trying to see if they could hypnotize people through really bland dialogue and really uninteresting scenes. And it works. I'll tell you what, it was hard to stay awake for these 3 episodes. Listening to 3 hours of TV static and rain sound effects ASMR would have been more stimulating than Rings of Power Season 2. And don't even get me started on some of the side quests. There's like some side adventures that are going on past the main plot, there's like 6 or 7 different like groups doing different things, and one of them is super not Gandalf guy, the Stranger, and the Harfoots just traveling, just endlessly traveling through sand and heat and complaining about it, and it's trying to help him find a staff, a Gand as they call it, and it super sucks. I just don't even know why it's there. I mean, I know why it's there. Obviously, Gandalf is going to come from this guy. I'm pretty confident. But I think you could just give me like a slide that says, "And then the stranger found a staff and became Gandalf," and that would be so much better than making me sit through them just fucking trekking through the desert so long, doing nothing until he eventually summons a tornado, and then the end of scene. It throws out the 2 Harfoots. They get caught up in the tornado, and he goes, "No!" And that's about it. Other than that, it's just them walking and talking in the desert. There are a couple of moments where there was like the start of something that could be cool about to happen, and then it doesn't. So there is a scene with some spiders that I thought, okay, this is kind of hype. And they do get kind of like bloody and gory, which is, you know, I mean, that's always at least somewhat exciting. And they have this spider scene that's going on. And then it's just so underwhelming with how it plays out. He basically just stabs the spider, hops on a horse, and leaves, all in the span of like 45 seconds. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess that was easy. I thought it was going to be like a big thing. Like, I thought it was going to be like a huge obstacle, because there were like some orcs that were like, oh, don't follow them into there. That's the, you know, the dark forest or some shit. And no one ever comes back alive. I mean, he came back alive like really, really easily. Just gets it with one of these maneuvers, the have at you then. Hops on a horse and leaves, saying, bye-bye. I gotta go trauma dump for the next 15 fucking minutes, speaking to a wall. I honestly don't know where the budget goes, because it is mostly just 2 characters talking in one location per scene. And it's not that impressive. It's not like they're on the back of fucking griffins talking to each other that look hyper-realistic or anything, where you need like a ton of CGI and shit. Like, they're just talking in some rooms.
Must be.
But that's it. Like, where is all the money going towards? It's not action scenes or anything. It doesn't really seem to be the environment, because I mean, we're getting a couple of like beautiful shots. Like, of course, there are some like really beautiful scenic shots, but there's not a ton of them. Certainly not enough to justify such a crazy budget for this. It seems highly bloated. I don't understand it. So yeah, I'm not really enjoying the first 3 episodes of season 2 so far.
So much.
Maybe episode 4 really picks things up and the rest of the season slaps, but I'm not super optimistic about that. Season. Right now, it seems like we're going to need Sauron to cook up a new ring of power here to give viewers the strength to stay awake through the next fucking 5 episodes of this snooze fest of a show. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to let you all know how season 2 of this show is turning out so far. That's really about it. See ya.
Sounds great. I don't think I could watch it. I don't think I could watch it, man. Yeah. It sounds boring. I was bored from the first season. Well, Rings of Power season 2 be there. Don't sound like it. Better thematic and character development. Despite these flaws, Rings of Power improves in its season. The big themes are given a few characters more breathing room to become somewhat compelling. Who wrote this nonsense? The budget for the not $1 billion. They spent about $1 billion, yes, but the 250 million for the right should at least. I can't believe that they've been spending $1 billion. How? How is that possible? Like, what is costing so much from it? I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, can somebody tell me? Like, what is costing that much? What, like, why $1 billion? It's like every cast member is getting paid $100 million or something. This has to be the most expensive TV series to make, isn't it? Gotta be. Actually, no. Anything that they can tell me about it? Yeah. Most expensive TV show in history. Holy crap. That don't surprise me. This was almost a Netflix series. Do you think Netflix could have done a better job than Amazon? HBO was also in the running. I feel like HBO would have been a bit more edgy with it. Oh, do you know what? HBO could have been the best one, actually. They associate with New Line Cinema. New Line Cinema was part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy as well. They could have probably done it the best, but we'll never know. Money talks. Jeff Bezos was heavily involved in the negotiation between Warner Brothers and Tolkien Estate. He pushes it. Fantasy series that would rival HBO's Game of Thrones, and this was it for him. Yeah, this is never gonna be in competition with Game of Thrones. Not now, anyway. Amazon bought the rights all the way back in 2017. Has it been years in the make? Damn. Premiere date was chosen to honor J.R.R. Tolkien. Oh, how disappointed he's gonna be. I don't think anybody from the Tolkien estate would like it. They wouldn't even like the trilogy films anyway. I don't think they'd like this. Sort of $1 billion spent on this production. Wow, they were strict about that. I tell you what, though, if anyone spoiled it, they would have done people a favour. The Tolkien estate had one non-negotiable. Remain. But they already did make changes to it, though, didn't they? Didn't they change some stuff like of the lore of Lord of the Rings? They already did that, though. Time. Hmm. I always wondered. Did always wonder how involved the Tolkien estate were. Hmm. Yeah, it seems like they will always shoot Lord of the Rings in New Zealand. And 3 hours in the makeup chair. That's nothing compared to what Jim Carrey went through in The Grinch. Did you hear about that? Yeah, he spent like what? I think he said like the first time it was like 8.5 hours. 8.5 hours to sit there while they do the makeup. That is a whole work day. And he said he had to do that 100 times. That is 850 hours. That's insane. I don't know how Jim Carrey did that. He clearly lost his mind at some point when he had to go through that. This series expected to last at least 5 seasons. They're gonna do 5 seasons of this? Well, the show better be going somewhere. Doesn't sound like it's going anywhere. Showrunners already have the entire series mapped out. Things in the first season that don't pay off until season 5. Last episode's gonna be. Oh damn. Yeah, I know he played a young Ned Stark. He don't look like an elf though. He doesn't look like one of those elves. I don't know, it's just I feel like elves should all have long silk straight hair. You know? But some of these characters don't. They've got like short hair like mine. Become an elf. They just don't look It just don't look right. There aren't many super graphic scenes. Well, there wouldn't be. That's never been Game of Thrones. That's never been Lord of the Rings. Sorry, Game of Thrones is graphic, but Lord of the Rings has never been that. Howard Shore. Oh, did he do the music for this as well? He did a great job with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yeah, Jackson is willing to help out if asked. What if he just said no? Like, no, I don't wanna. Not really involved in this. He's offered his guidance. I think they're going to send us a see if we can help them. We can help them. I don't think we'll try. It's a big task. Yeah, I like to think that yeah, I like to think Peter Jackson just doesn't want to help. I haven't answered just yet. Is it the stranger? It's very clearly Gandalf. Here's the thing. Okay, if we go through all of this and it turns out the stranger is not Gandalf, I'll be like, fair enough. You got me. But oh man, if they start trying to go through it all, trying to make it all mysterious and ambiguous, you know, wondering, oh, who is that? Who is that? Who is that? And it turns out to be Gandalf. We're all just gonna be like, well, no fucking shit, Sherlock. It very clearly is Gandalf. It's like no surprise. It's no surprise whatsoever. Who else would it be? Oh, we're getting an audio book, a video game, and a collector's edition. That's sweet. Hope that'll be good. I hope. Yeah, no, as far as I'm concerned, it's a boring show. For the first season, and from the sounds of it, the second season as well. I'm not gonna bother watching it. I can't be bothered to be invested in it. I'll wait until all the episodes come out, and then I'll just go through it all. But if it turns out that it's boring from beginning to end, and there's nothing much that's happening, I'm not gonna bother. I'm just gonna give that a miss. I'll probably just have it on in the background while I'm doing something else. It'll just be one of those background noises. Yeah. I did love the films. Yeah, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is really great. I really liked those films. They were really good. Yeah, they did have some really great moments in that. Some emotional ones, and the whole thing just felt like a journey. It really felt like a journey from beginning to end. It was so good. It was so good. Yeah, they couldn't have done a better job on that. Yeah, I played Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. I played those 2 games. They're good games. They're not too bad. Yeah, they're good. Yeah, I didn't mind them. I heard the Gollum game was really bad. I knew that game would be bad though. It's about Gollum. You're playing as Gollum. It's like, he's the last character you'd want to play as. He's one of those characters that would be better as a mod, where you could just play as Gollum for fun, just in doing some weird things. But you wouldn't want to play as that character as a main protagonist for some story throughout the whole game. Like, you wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, I knew that game was going to be bad. I saw that coming from a mile away. Yeah. I did read the books. Yeah, I read The Hobbit. And then I read The Lord of the Rings. I thought the Hobbit book was alright. I didn't really mind that so much. I thought that was alright. That was an alright book. I don't really like the film so much. I thought making The Hobbit into a trilogy was really unnecessary. I don't understand why it couldn't have been done from one film. They couldn't just do a 3-hour or 4-hour film, just one. It had to be turned into a trilogy. Yeah, there was so much CGI in it. Yeah, I really didn't care for it. Yeah, I just completely forgot all about it, to be honest. It's not really a film I'd look back on and want to watch it. It's one of those films where if I was going to do a special day and it was going to be all about Lord of the Rings, I'd only watch them as a necessity. Like, oh, I have to watch them. Just get through this until I get to the really good stuff, which is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But if I had a choice, I wouldn't watch the Hobbit films. I'd give those a miss. I wouldn't say they're necessarily bad. They're just not good enough. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, those are the only books I've read. No, I never read the Silmarillion. And that's what the Rings of Power is based on, isn't it? And that's how it all began. Is that right? Written by his son, wasn't it? Christopher? Was it Christopher Tolkien? Yeah, never read that book. I might have to. Get that book and read it and see what it's all about. Yeah. Um, yeah, it feels like this show and House of the Dragon have been boring this year. I feel like nothing much has happened. I'd say House of the Dragon definitely had a bit more happening, but that was like in the first half of the season. It's just the second half, not so much. It was all just starting to slow down a bit and just not much was just happening. Yeah, that's about it, really. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything all covered. All right.